All right, let's talk about some Guild Boss today. We have finally gotten to the point where we are 2-keying Nightmare 3. So I believe there's a test feature coming soon, which will be fun. We'll get to start to experiment with Nightmare 4. I think I'm probably a ways off from having a ton of success in Nightmare 4. Perhaps we'll consider bumping up soon. I don't know. What do the rewards look like? I don't know. It might be worth. We'll worry about that later. But we're going to talk about how we've gotten to the point where we're hitting over 10,000 per attack on Nightmare 3. We had kind of a big jump. We went from doing like, we went from barely 2-keying the third chest. Well, I say barely. We were probably doing about 8,000 total, to making some adjustments and jumping up to where I think we did like 6,800. And then we made a few more tweaks and we're doing over 10,000. So let's talk about it. Well, I think what we'll do for the first one is I'll do an auto fight. I'll let you see the run in action quickly, and then we'll go through and talk about placements and timing and look at everybody's gear and all of that stuff. But you can see we've got Deimos, Abomination, Wrath, Valeriya. We've got Vortex for our support, and then we've got Idril, and we have Alistair in the mix, and then of course you have Dolores because she's I mean, pretty much mandatory. I think she's kind of mandatory for this. Again, I haven't done a ton of research on Guild Boss or anything, but I don't know of anybody doing crazy numbers without Dolores. So it certainly might be possible, but everybody that I've ever heard talk about this talks about needing to have her. And once you get everybody placed, it's fairly straightforward. The run itself is fairly straightforward. And I reckon it's just going to ultimately end up being a DPS check. So again, we'll go through and talk about everybody's gear. And if you've seen me do any guides before, you follow my daily upload series that I do in the game, you know that my gear is not insane. So you don't have to have ridiculous gear to pull this off. And I think there's probably a decent variety of champs that you could bring in to have good success in here. I don't think it has to be these champs. The nice thing about this is a lot of these champs are pretty obtainable, fairly obtainable. So we'll go through and talk about it as we do the run slowly. But anyway, there's the run, 10.4K. And if we go and look at our damage output, you'll see Valeriya is at the top with 20.7. Interesting thing about her is she is out of Dolores's range. So she's my top damage dealer outside of Dolores's range. So on one hand, you would think like we could move her into range and she could do even more damage. But then I think these other champs are benefiting a lot from having Dolores. So what's the better way to go? So maybe we'll play around with that in this video. We like to kind of do our guide and then do some experimenting at the end. So maybe we'll play around with her, and I'll show you how to experiment without it costing you anything, okay? And then we've got Idril and Alistair that dropped, nearly 10 and 9 million. I would love to get some heroes in the mix that could kind of keep up with these two. Even Abomination is putting in pretty good numbers, and Wrath is doing fine for where we're at. But I would love to get everybody over 10. That would be cool. But ultimately, there's not really much of a reason to worry about that on Nightmare 3 because we're hitting over 10 per key, so like, whatever. It's fine. You know what I mean? He's here for a leader skill. He's here for a leader skill. He's here for support. And she's here for support, okay? So that's the run. Now let's go through and do it slowly. Talk about how to time everything, where everybody's placed, and then we'll go and look at gear, right? And then maybe we'll do some experimenting. So again, this is the lineup. He's here strictly for the leader skill, and because he benefits both of them, right? I tried a few different things, and I tried different leader skills, but this seems to be working out for me pretty well. So that's the lineup. Let's jump in and do the run. So for me, I go Deimos up here, up front. I go Wrath behind him. I go Abomination, and then I go Valeriya. Now, the reason I do that is because I have on Valeriya, I've got that artifact. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one where she drops that purple phantom ghost figure that also attacks. And if I drop her, a lot of the time, if I drop her first, she'll drop that phantom somewhere that messes up where I'm trying to place everybody else. So if you're using that artifact, we'll take a look at it after the run. I can't remember the name of it. But if you're using that artifact on anyone, place them last so that they don't take up a spot, because then you're just gonna have to restart the run. So that's why she goes down last, okay? Then we drop Dolores on this corner right here on the inside. That way she can hit 3 of my ground units, and then everyone else that I'm gonna place for damage, she's gonna hit them. As long as I place them on that left side, it doesn't matter where. As long as they can hit the boss, she can cover them, okay? So that's where she goes. Idril, I just like to put right behind her. Alistair, I put to her left. And then Vortex goes down here so that he can cover everyone, including Valeriya. If we put him one slot over, he can't get Valeriya, all right? So that's why I put him here. This way he can cover everybody. That's why we don't put Alistair up top. We keep him one down so that he can also be in a range of getting healed. So now everybody's down. And basically all you're doing now is babysitting the run until he enters the stage where you have to break the shield. When you have to break the shield, you ult with Dolores, and then I just start at the left and work my way across, okay? And just pop ults. And they break the shield really quickly, and then they still get to do a lot of damage to him when he's in that vulnerable stage. So, and then with Vortex, I save his ult for the attack phase, and I'll show you when I pop that as well. But again, it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of crucial timing. So like right now, bam, 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 bam. And now they're gonna do their thing. Vortex is gonna heal everybody up during this stage, except Valeriya, who can't be healed right now, right? She's gonna be doing her thing. But when her ult ends, we'll be able to heal her back up. And we still have an open space for her to drop her ghost over here, so he can still do damage, right? And then again, you see her topping, she's getting topped off now because everybody else is healed up. Vortex can focus her and get her back up when her ult ends. And that's that. So now what I'll do is I'll just turn this on. After Infernal Roar, you hit, and that's usually when I ult. No one's really close to dying, so it doesn't really matter too much. I just do it between Internal Roar and the Meteorite. And then as everybody's ults get full, I know we're getting close-ish to him entering that state where we need to break his shield again. So I put it back on ×1 just so that I don't lose any time, because you want to get this off as quickly as possible just to maximize the amount of damage that you're doing. So once we've popped all the ults, I just go back to ×2. And by the time we want to use his ult, it'll be ready. So he'll hit us with Infernal Roar. We'll ult between it. Her ult's ready, and then as these start to pile up again, as they get closer to being ready, we know that we're getting close to shield state. So we'll go back to ×1 for a second. And it should be any second now. And then again, we can go back to ×2. And that's pretty much it. Now for this last bit of the run, we're not gonna hit the state where we need to break his shield again. So now we can pop ults as they come. So he's gonna hit us, ult. When we hit about 30 seconds, I like to go back to ×1. And again, we can just kind of ult. Dolores is going to come in behind him. Now we want to keep an eye on the clock here. But that's it. That's the run. It's fairly straightforward. Nothing super complicated. So around 5 seconds, we're over 10K. We're going to hit pause to stop the clock. We're going to end the run. And we didn't consume our attack, right? Which is good. We can also go into the stats and check our damage. So this is that way I was talking about where you can test basically a full run without it costing you anything. Now, again, I think I've heard they're adding an actual test feature soon, so you won't have to do this for long, hopefully. But In the meantime, you can test your damage and see if you're going to hit the threshold you want to hit without it costing you anything. And if you don't hit the threshold, you can come in here and check your damage and figure out where the weak points are in your team, okay? So that's how you'll test it. But anyway, that's the run. That time we got 20 out of Deimos. They're usually really close to each other in damage. It kind of goes back and forth. But everybody else is fairly consistent, right? He did 9.8 last time. I think she did 9 flat. This time she did 9.1. He did closer to 10. But everybody stays pretty much around their damage ranges, right? So that's the run. That's how you set it up. As far as alternatives, again, I'm not familiar. I would imagine there's probably a tier list around that lets you know who has a lot of potential. I know, is it Zalitu, I think, that's really, really good in here. If you've got her, you're probably not even struggling. But again, if you wanted to follow the same outline I've set here, you can. Now, there's an argument to be made to not have another ground unit and instead have someone else on a platform so that Dolores can hit everyone on the team. I've tried that. I've tried a few different variations of that, and even with Dolores' help, no one that I can put on a platform with my current gear, anyway, can even get close to her damage. I've tried Calypso, who can do about 12 million. Nocturne does about 10 to 12. But again, their gear's pretty mediocre, so maybe as I got their gear better, they'd be able to do more. But for what I have going on in my account currently, Valeriya is way better than anyone else I could put on a platform, even without hitting Dolores. So, again, you'll have to play around with it in your account, and now you know how to play around with it, so it'll be easier. Now, let's go through and talk about everybody's gear. So Valeriya, that artifact is called Wailing Skull, and it's got a 40% chance of summoning a Shadow Guard with 80% of her stats. So that's certainly helping her damage a lot, right? She is First Awakened. We did get a dupe of her during the ultimate, increased attack speed. So that's probably helping us a lot, right? It's really nice having her at A1. I don't know what kind of damage output she'd get without being A1. I'm sure it would still be pretty good, though. She is skilled up to the point of needing crystals, like everyone else, most everyone else in my account. As far as her gear goes, we can take a look at her stats here. She's pretty decent, actually. She's probably one of my better built champs. I would like to get that crit rate up a little bit, but she's got decent enough crit rate, pretty good crit damage. Her attack is fairly high. And then, HP, get a little bit of HP as well. She's pretty okay. She's pretty okay. This is hard to replace because of the 24 crit rate, even though it's a gold piece. So that's kind of a shame. I wish I could replace this, but I don't want to lose much crit rate as it is. Not to mention, it has attack bonus on it as well. It's really good for a gold piece. So she could certainly come a long way as far as being optimized. One, we could get her on sets that would benefit her. Two, it would be really nice if I could get a gold or a red weapon with good crit rate and attack bonus, and then get her crit rate up as well. But again, that's what we were rocking with her, and she's doing it. She's one of my strongest champs as far as power is concerned. So yeah, she's pretty legit, man. Abomination, believe we've taken a look at before. We'll take another quick look at him though. Again, you kind of go hybrid with Abomination, so we've got a decent amount of HP on him, pretty good amount of attack, and then again, pretty well built. It took me a while to pivot to him and really give him the attention that he deserves, but he's really good, especially for what we're using him for right now. He's putting in a lot of work for us, so he has some of our better gear. We went attack, crit damage, and we're still able to get 95 crit rate. So again, we don't have any sets completed on him, but his substats on all this gear is really nice. So that's also a good testament to don't get too caught up in completing sets. You really want to. You really want to complete sets because those set bonuses are nice, and it seems like that's what you should be doing. But it's gonna be a while before you have the gear depth to be able to get away with completing sets. So just worry about stats. And then eventually, after, you know, thousands of runs in the gear raid dungeons, you might be able to start completing sets and maintain these stats. But in almost all cases, you're going to hurt yourself if you worry too much about completing a set and not the stat. So you have to stay on top of that. His artifact is Nightmare Shadow. He probably doesn't need that because he's got really good crit rate. We could swap that out for something else. What would we want on him though? What do we got? Targets him. When I get a bleed on the team, we're going to be in good shape because we're set up well to take advantage of bleed. I don't know. We may consider taking Wrath out for like Komodo or somebody just to get a bleed in the mix, and that way Deimos can do more damage, and then we can also put something like this on someone on the team and have them do extra damage as well. But for now, that might be good because his HP stays pretty high for most of the fight. This one might be the better way to go. Let's throw that on him. Making changes as we do the guide. So anyway, that's Abomination. Again, also skilled up. And I do have him at A2. I got him from the first pack I bought in the game. You know, when you're newer, they give you that pack where you can buy a random Lego. Abomination was my random Lego. And then I summoned him again from something else. And then we finally fused him. So that's why I have him at A2. And the 300 attack is nice. But even here, it's not necessary that he's awakened for guild raid. So if you don't have, or guild boss, so if you don't have him awakened, don't sweat that too much, all right? Moving right along, Alistair, who is interesting. I'm glad we were able to plug him into something so successfully after him being the Christmas fusion. He's pretty cool. He's pretty cool. Let's look at his skills real quick and talk about what he's doing in here that's helping us. Each attack on the same target increases attack speed by 30, stacking up to 5 times. The effect lasts for 5 seconds. When reaching full stacks, each basic attack deals 1 extra true damage equal to 80% attack. Obviously, there's only 1 target in guild raid, so that's why this makes so much sense in there, okay? His ult inflicts 3 stacks of radiant erosion on up to 10 enemies, right? And then radiant erosion deals true damage based on defense of the inflicted target every 2 seconds. And then here he's doing damage when reaching full stacks of radiant erosion, right? It's mainly the fact that he's hitting the same target every time, and stacking up that attack speed. He's able to output a lot of damage and kind of help the rest of the team do some good damage as well. All right, so that's what he's doing in here. Probably better options. Maybe I'll consider trying Calypso in his place. Again, we'll do some testing at the end of this video and see if we can maybe even get a better friend than we have. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to play around with him. His gear, he's decently built. Nothing too insane. Decent attack, good crit rate, a little bit of crit damage. He's got a pretty decent build on him, all right? Skilled up to the point of needing crystals. And I don't even have an artifact on this guy yet. Interesting. What do we think? A crit hit increases crit damage. Maybe that one. Maybe that's the way to go. Let's give him that. But that's pretty much it. Just get his damage up. Standard damage, all right? Nothing too crazy. Who else we got? We're running Torador, but we're running him for the lead, so I'm not going to talk about how he's built. We've got Idril, who has a pretty good setup on her, I think. I would love to get more attack on her, but this is where we're at right now. And she's got pretty good crit rate and decent. She's got really good crit rate and decent crit damage. Not a crazy build, but she really puts in work. Everywhere I take her, she's definitely the star of the show in my anti-air arena. She, big part of why I'm able to do Gear Raid 3. She's pretty ridiculous, even with these pretty mediocre stats. I'm excited to get a stack of attack on her at some point. But this is what we're rocking. We were able to complete a Calamity set on her, which is nice. She is skilled all the way up. and she is A5. She would be a good example of someone that's worth your awakening crystals if you don't have a bunch of dupes of her. She's really good. Now her A5, she doesn't need to be A5 for this specifically because you're not killing the boss, so it doesn't matter. But having her A5 for everything else is great, and you're going to use her a lot, so she's well worth an A5. But again, standard damage. A lot of these champs are basically just standard damage. It's nothing too crazy. And then, of course, we have her artifact on her, and we have upgraded it a couple of times. So, yeah, again, pretty popular champ. You're probably pretty familiar with her at this point. Wrath, we've talked about in other videos. Just get his damage up. Again, you do want to have a lot of crit rate on him. So I think even if you have to sacrifice some attack, it's worth it to get the crit rate. You want him landing crit hits on a very regular basis. So we went a little bit overboard with it, but we didn't really have a choice. It's just how it worked out. Pretty good crit damage, decent attack, pretty good HP, a lot of HP. But that's it. Again, don't get too caught up on sets. He is skilled up. He is A5. So yeah, and then his artifact is the Flux Pendant. Again, we've talked about this. So you're familiar with Wrath, you know Wrath. Deimos. I'm glad that I ended up being right when I pulled this dude and read his skills. The first thing I thought about was Guild Raid, and he ended up becoming the star of the show. Him and Valeriya, but he's an epic, so he gets more points for doing well in here, I think. So again, as I've said with everyone else, it's about damage. He's got a little over 10k attack, decent crit rate, decent crit damage. We have him in an attack speed set. And then for the artifact, we put this on him because it's going to be the thing we have on him. Again, we're not utilizing it yet, but when we do, it'll be nice that that's on there. He's already doing pretty crazy damage anyway. And he's pretty simple. Basic attack deals additional damage equal to 2% of the hero's max HP. We'll talk about that in a second. His ultimate increases max HP by 150% and attack and defense by 30. Each basic attack lands 4 consecutive strike. It lasts for 20 seconds. And then here it's damage 2 times. And then each consecutive attack against the same target increases damage by 15% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. It will not be refreshed after reaching the maximum number of stacks. Stacks will reset upon switching targets. Since we never switch targets in the fight, it never resets, so he ramps his damage up and keeps it there, okay? Now again, dealing damage equal to some of his max HP. You'll notice he's got a bit more HP than you would tend to focus for a damage dealer. So don't give him HP main stat, but you'll notice a theme across our gear. You'll see HP bonus as a substat in most, if not all of our gear. Like, that's a terrible piece. It's got some good crit rate for us, but it's awful. He's got a lot of room to grow. And again, that's kind of what I'm saying. None of my gear is insane on this account. But he's a good example of someone you want to focus HP bonus in pretty heavily. Similar to Abomination, but maybe not. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe a similar approach to Abomination. Because you want to go pretty aggressively hybrid on Abomination. But with Deimos, it just doesn't feel as intense for some reason to me, but similar approach. He is all the way skilled up, and he is a 1. I do have a couple of crystals. And I do like him a lot. We may consider it. Anyway, let's move on. Vortex, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about. You're probably very familiar with Vortex. Get his HP up. That's it. Skill him up, get his HP up. For artifact, we have North's Glory on him. There's probably a pretty good handful of artifacts that are good on him. So use what you like. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter too much. And then, of course, he is A5. But again, it's just HP. Just get his HP up, all right? Get him in a good supportive build and get his HP up and he's fine. Dolores, again, I assume you're all very familiar with Dolores. She's probably in a ton of guides. There's probably a ton of videos on her. Basically, you're just trying to stack her attack up and also get her in a position where she can kind of not struggle to stay alive, but that's really not too difficult, okay? The reason Dolores is so good is because she applies this with her ult, right? The inspiration. So increases attack proportionally to the caster's attack. While this effect is active, other buffs won't take effect, right? So that's why you want to scale her attack up so much, because the higher her attack is, the harder she's buffing the rest of the team. And mine is not great, honestly. She's got low base attack, so it is hard to scale it, right? But I'm sure there are plenty of Dolores out there with double and probably triple my attack. But we did the best we could, all right? But basically, get her on a Calamity set for that extra bonus. Find attack bonus over here where you can find it. And then over here, of course, it's attack bonus across the board. And if you can find flat attack, if you can find some good flat attack rolls on these pieces, that'll add up, right? 400 there, 350 there, 400 there, right? There's easily over another 1,000 just like that. So the flat attack will add up on her as well. Here we've got flat attack and attack bonus. So look for that flat attack on her pieces where you can. And then on her artifact, when there is any ally within one tile increases attack. Basically, whatever you can put on her that increases her attack. Keen Wisdom, as far as I know, is the one. It's the one I had anyway. I don't know if there's a better one of a higher rarity. I assume there would be, but I'm not familiar with all the artifacts yet. So my Dolores is at A2. I don't care too much about the healing multiplier. The attack 5% would be pretty nice. And then that would also be pretty nice. So maybe we'll consider using the crystals on her as well. But basically to get her attack up. All right, that's kind of the way to go with her. And then is that it? Is that the whole team? I guess it is, because he's not him. Scroll, bro. What are you doing? Scroll. Where is he? Y'all know, I'm talking about the dude that I use as a leader, him. He's only there for leader. Corridor's only there for leader skill, all right? So anyway, that's, I think, everyone on the team and their gear. You've seen the setup. We've talked about all of that. Yeah, we talked about everybody here. So who did we say we might want to play around with here? Calypso instead of Alistair? Maybe? So if we're going to do that, I think we'll put in Lunaria. Who is here? And we'll see what kind of damage we can get out of Calypso. And then maybe we put Valeriya doesn't have to have a spot next to her open to place that thing, right? She can place it anywhere there's an open platform. So maybe we'll put her in Wrath. We'll swap her in Wrath or Abomination. We'll go Deimos, Valeriya, and then maybe we'll go Abomination, Wrath. And Abomination won't get Dolores's buff anymore. Yeah, by the way, we're now entering the testing phase of the video. The guide itself is done. So if you want to hang out for the testing, that's what's going on now, all right? So okay. So we'll go Deimos. We'll go. I'm gonna put Wrath up here, actually. I just want to see. We're gonna put Abomination behind him. We're gonna put Valeriya here. We're gonna put Dolores here. Calypso here. Idril here. Vortex here. And let's see how this goes. I know when Deimos gets close to ult is when we're getting close to the shield thing, so let's slow it down here. There it is. We took a little bit too long putting him down. another thing about Calypso, I don't have to use her ult. She'll just do her own thing. So usually at the end of this, Calypso's gonna ramp up as the fight goes on too. So you might feel like we're starting a little bit slower. I think Alistair ramps up a little bit quicker than she does. I think Calypso is particularly good in longer fights, so. Oh, you know what we didn't do yet is ult with him. All right, ults are ready, so we must be getting close. I need to keep an eye out too and see if she's ever placing her thing down. Old purple. Old perp. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Maybe she does need an open spot. So maybe she'll go on the outside. Abomination will go on the inside. Yeah, not as good of a run. Okay, keep a close eye. When we hit about 5 seconds, we'll stop it. We might still break 10, but not as good of a run. So let's see who. So yeah, she still only did about 20, but also her artifact wasn't triggering. So I think I need to swap Abomination and her. Wrath still did 10k. Calypso only did 6. Maybe I was misremembering Calypso's damage there. I think I've seen pictures of her doing better damage, but we don't have her in that place. Okay, so let's. If I challenge again, it takes me to the team screen, right? Oh, it just brings me back here, which is dumb. That's dumb. That's dumb. It should take me somewhere else. Okay, so we'll swap in. We'll put Alistair back in because he seems to be the only one that can kind of hang with. Like Idril. Where are you at, big head? There you are. So yeah, I want to see what kind of difference her damage makes being in Dolores' range. So what did we lose? We lost about 3 million on Wrath. So if Valeriya is not doing more, like significantly more than 23 million, probably 24 plus, then it's not worth it. Because if she can still swing 20, she can still swing 20 without Dolores. You know what I mean? So again, we'll go Deimos, Abomination, Wrath, Valeriya, Dolores, Alistair, Idril. And now that's triggering. Okay. So again, we know as Deimos' ult gets close, we can slow it down. All right, let's see how we're looking here. Okay. So around 2,700. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. I think if we get a new PB here, we'll probably just keep it. It's looking real good. I feel like we're on a really good pace right now. We need a good round. All right, it's about that time again. Go down, there you go. All right. And then we'll probably just pop ults as they come from this point on. Hold on to hers for a second. Slow it down. So 10-4 is our best. We blew that away. Interesting. Interesting. So about 24. So Dolores seems to be worth about 3 million damage for whoever she's on. He did more damage with that new artifact. We gave him, we gave him a new artifact. He did more damage. Okay. Interesting. I think what I want to do, I want to try a Nightmare 4 run, just as a bonus for the video, and just to see what it's like. So we'll do the same thing. We're just gonna try it in here and see. I imagine it's a substantial step up, and we're just gonna do exactly the run we just did. So we went Abomination behind, we're at the front, Valeriya, Dolores, Alistair, Idril. And perhaps we need to be a little bit more conscious of what we do with Vortex's ult. If we don't get wiped here, you know what I mean? Like, okay, that's not so bad. How bad's that gonna hurt? All right, we survived it. I mean, he's definitely making Vortex work here. Survive it, survive it. We're good. Ooh, that shield. I think we'll break it a second time. I'm not sure we'll break it a third time. Assuming we survive, because again, he's gonna get stronger and be hitting us harder and stuff. I'm not sure if we'll break that shield a third time. We'll see. I bet that's gonna hurt. We'll ult there. I mean, it's looking like a fairly similar run so far. Not as much of a difference as I was expecting, actually. Ooh, man. So we're not even gonna break it a second time. So that's where it's gonna be tricky, is breaking the shield a second time. We were doing well. They held up better than I thought, actually. I reckon you're probably gonna have, like, you're gonna have to really be taking advantage of mechanics in here. So like when we get a bleed in the mix and start taking advantage of that, we'll be better off. But yeah, they held up better than I thought. She was putting in work, putting in some serious work. Okay, shoot, maybe we're not as far off of that as I thought. Maybe we're not as far off of that as I thought. Anyway, that's it. That was kind of fun. That was interesting to see. So yeah, I guess Nightmare 4 is going to be really about mechanics and probably top tier gear. I mean, let's face it, we need substantially more damage output. We've got so much room to grow with our gear. But I hope that helps you. Hope that gives you something to strive for. Maybe you don't have the champs I have, but you can take what you've seen here and kind of apply it to your account a little bit in a way that'll help you. Maybe I, showcase Dolores in a way that maybe you're newer to the game and you didn't realize how important she was, but she's a big deal. She's a big deal for it. Basically seems to be worth about 3 million damage. I think Abomination was doing about 3 million more with her. So my Dolores seems to be worth about 3 million for everybody she touches, which is substantial, right? So anyway, that's it. Hope it was helpful. If you got any other tips you want to drop below, maybe you're someone who's hitting Nightmare 4 and you just watch this to get a kick out of it, and you've got some tips for Nightmare 4 you want to drop below, that would be pretty cool. I'd be interested to hear them because we will be working on moving up to Nightmare 4 as we fill out our roster a little bit and upgrade our gear some. So I'd be interested to hear what kind of things you guys are doing to have success in Nightmare 4. If you're approaching Nightmare 3 in a different way and you want to share that, I'd be interested to hear that as well. And I'm sure it would be helpful to everybody else in the comments. So that's it. I'm getting out of here. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.